Xi Jinping isn't just China's president, he's the most powerful Chinese leader in decades. In 2025, he controls the Communist Party, the military, the state, and even the digital lives of 1.4 billion citizens. His face is on billboards, his ideology in textbooks, and his rivals quietly removed. But how did a once silent political son of a purged official rise to dominate the world's second-largest superpower? This is the story of power, carefully built, ruthlessly defended, and globally consequential. From rural exile to political empire, Xi Jinping's journey isn't just a biography. It's the blueprint of how modern authoritarianism evolves with the tools of the 21st century. Let's go back to the beginning and see how it all began. Xi Jinping was born in 1953 into political royalty, the so-called red aristocracy. His father, Xi Jinping, was a revolutionary hero and one of the Communist Party's founding elites. Growing up in Zhongnanhai, the inner compound reserved for China's most powerful families, young Xi had access to the upper echelons of Chinese power from an early age. But privilege didn't last. In the 1960s, during Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, Xi's father was purged from the party and labeled a traitor. The family's status collapsed overnight. Xi Jinping, just a teenager, was publicly humiliated, his school closed, and he was sent to the countryside for re-education, part of a mass campaign where millions of urban youth were forced to work in rural areas. He ended up in a poor village in Shanxi province, living in a cave house, working the land by day, and reading Mao's works by candlelight at night. This was the turning point. While many privileged youth turned bitter or fled the system, Xi adapted. He kept his head down, endured hardship, and quietly began to rebuild his political credentials. Unlike others, he didn't resist the system, he studied it. Over time, Xi applied for Communist Party membership, not once, not twice, but multiple times. He was rejected repeatedly, likely due to his father's political baggage, but he kept applying. Eventually, he was accepted, and this perseverance would become a defining trait in his leadership style. After returning from the countryside, Xi attended Tsinghua University, one of China's most prestigious schools, where he studied chemical engineering but remained deeply focused on politics. Later, he would return to Tsinghua to earn a doctorate in Marxist theory, an academic path that mirrored his intent to be more than just a bureaucrat. He was preparing for power. But unlike the flashy or media-friendly style of some contemporaries, Xi kept a low profile. He didn't rise through Beijing's central power centers. Instead, he climbed slowly and steadily through China's provincial system, first as a local official, then a regional governor. This wasn't by accident. Working in tough provinces like Fujian and Zhejiang, Xi avoided scandals, made loyal allies, and built a reputation for discipline and order. His quiet rise meant he wasn't seen as a threat, until he suddenly was. By the early 2000s, Xi Jinping was known inside the party as red nobility with discipline. He had the bloodline of a revolutionary, the patience of a rural survivor, and the ambition of someone playing the long game. The groundwork was laid, not through revolution, but through resilience. And with his image carefully crafted and his loyalty to the party unquestioned, Xi Jinping was now positioned to move into Chinese highest ranks. Unlike many political elites who make their names in Beijing, Xi Jinping chose, or was sent, to work far from the spotlight, and that may have been his greatest advantage. In the 1980s and 1990s, she held a series of increasingly important posts in China's coastal provinces, including Fujian, Zhejiang, and eventually Shanghai. These areas were economically vital and politically sensitive, making them key testing grounds for rising officials. Xi's leadership in these regions wasn't flashy, but it was effective. He gained a reputation as a calm, corruption-averse administrator who brought order and stability without seeking headlines. In Fujian, Xi spent over 17 years, focusing on economic reform, cross-strait relations with Taiwan, and rebuilding after a massive corruption scandal. His approach was methodical, reforming systems from within rather than overhauling them from above. He also demonstrated a rare ability to avoid factional infighting, something that plagued many other officials. Then came Zhejiang, one of China's most dynamic provinces. As party secretary, Xi oversaw a booming private sector and emphasized clean governance. He was known to conduct unannounced visits, keep a modest personal profile, and stress loyalty to the central party. At a time when many local leaders cultivated personal media images, Xi remained old-school and austere. But his track record was noted in Beijing. His big break came in 2007, when he was appointed as party secretary of Shanghai, one of China's most politically symbolic cities. The appointment was sudden, replacing a disgraced official caught in a major corruption scandal. Xi's time in Shanghai was brief, just 7 months, but symbolically powerful. He stabilized the city quickly and didn't provoke political waves. The message to China's top leadership was clear. Xi was a fixer, not a showman. That same year, he was promoted to the Politburo Standing Committee, the highest decision-making body in China, and positioned as the likely successor to then-President Hu Jintao. To many outside observers, the rise felt abrupt, but for those inside the party, it was the result of decades of calculated movement, loyalty, and invisibility when needed. Xi's rise was different. He didn't ride popular movements, he didn't challenge authority, instead he built a personal network of loyalists in the provinces, kept a low national profile, and avoided making enemies in Beijing's political minefields. By the time 2012 arrived, the succession seemed smooth. But behind the scenes, China was facing internal fractures, corruption scandals, and growing discontent within the party ranks. Xi Jinping stepped into this moment not just as a successor, but as someone ready to remake the system from the inside out. His next move would shock the establishment and redefined power in modern China. In 2012, Xi Jinping was formally appointed General Secretary of the Communist Party, China's most powerful position. To the outside world, this seemed like another orderly transfer of power. But inside the party, a dramatic transformation was already underway. Xi didn't just inherit the position, he took control of it. His first major move came in the form of a sweeping anti-corruption campaign, which he called essential to saving the party from collapse. The slogan was bold: strike tigers and swat flies. It meant no one, not even high-ranking officials, was untouchable. And what began as a promise to clean up the system quickly turned into the largest political purge in modern Chinese history. Powerful party elites, military generals, and senior bureaucrats were investigated, arrested, and in many cases imprisoned. Some were his political rivals, others were simply too independent, but all of them had one thing in common. They were not part of Xi's growing inner circle. The campaign made Xi wildly popular with the public who had grown tired of visible corruption. But it also had a second purpose: consolidating control. With each purge, Xi weakened factional power bases and replaced key positions with loyalists, many of them from his past provincial posts. Behind the scenes, Xi was also taking on more than tradition allowed. While past leaders shared power with other standing committee members, Xi quickly centralized decision-making. He chaired new policy bodies covering foreign affairs, cybersecurity, economic reform, even military strategy. These small leading groups gave him near total control across all sectors. Within 2 years, it was clear. Xi Jinping wasn't just China's president, he was its core leader, a term not used since Deng Xiaoping. And this was only the beginning. Once Xi Jinping had consolidated power through his anti-corruption campaign, he began dismantling long-standing political norms, traditions that had kept China's leadership system balanced since the Deng Xiaoping era. The most shocking came in 2018 when China's National People's Congress, effectively controlled by the Communist Party, voted to remove presidential term limits. Overnight, Xi was no longer bound by the 2-term cap that had governed every leader since the 1980s. The message was clear: Xi was in power indefinitely. Western media called it a return to one-man rule. But Xi's control wasn't just political, it was military. He took over as chairman of the Central Military Commission, asserting command over the People's Liberation Army. By purging top generals and replacing them with loyalists, Xi ensured that no military force could challenge him internally. Under his watch, China's military spending soared, and its posture grew more assertive, especially around Taiwan and the South China Sea. At the same time, Xi built something unprecedented: a technological surveillance state. Under his leadership, China deployed one of the world's most expansive systems of facial recognition, biometric ID tracking, and internet censorship. Tools like the social credit system emerged, designed to reward or punish citizens based on behavior. Critics called it Orwellian. Xi called it modern governance. Nowhere was this more visible than in Xinjiang, where over 1 million Uyghurs were reportedly detained in re-education camps. Satellite imagery, whistleblowers, and leaked government documents all pointed to a deeply invasive, algorithm-driven control system, run under Xi's banner of national unity and counter-terrorism. Xi also shifted the party's ideological tone. His name and political thought, Xi Jinping, thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics, were enshrined in China's constitution. School children now study it, universities teach it, and dissent is more dangerous than ever. Under Xi, China stopped pretending to be a collective leadership. It became something else, a highly centralized, surveillance-enabling regime steered by one man with no clear end date. As of 2025, Xi Jinping has ruled China for over a decade. In that time, he has transformed the country in ways few leaders have since Mao Zedong. His supporters call him a visionary, a stabilizer who restored order, discipline, and long-term goals to a party that was once drifting. His critics? They see an authoritarian strongman, dismantling decades of political reform in the name of control. Under Xi, China has grown more assertive on the global stage. His signature project, the Belt and Road Initiative, now spans over 140 countries, linking Asia, Africa, and Europe through infrastructure and trade. He's built closer ties with Russia, expanded China's influence in the Middle East and Africa, and challenged U.S. dominance in multilateral institutions. The goal? Reshape the global order around Chinese interests, not Western ideals. At home, Xi presents himself as the guardian of national rejuvenation. His policies emphasize common prosperity, cultural revival, and strict party discipline. He's cracked down on tech billionaires, brought private education under state control, and increased party influence in businesses, media, and academia. In Xi's China, there's no room for independent power centers. But these sweeping changes come at a cost. Censorship is tighter than ever, with dissenting voices silenced online and in person. Foreign businesses operate under rising political pressure, ethnic minorities face systemic repression, and the Chinese public, especially the younger generation, live in a society where nationalism is promoted, but free speech is increasingly restricted. Xi's legacy is still being written. He could be remembered as the man who made China powerful, rich, and respected, or the leader who traded openness for absolute control, perhaps both. One thing is certain, Xi Jinping has reshaped China in his image, and as the world watches his next move, on Taiwan, on AI, on the global stage, the stakes have never been higher. Because when one man holds this much power, the line between legacy and dictatorship can blur, and history will decide which one it becomes.